honest with you, this is intimidating, and the reason it is I'm in the middle of a bunch of people that I value their opinion. You know, I mean, a whole lot of times you'll speak somewhere, maybe a Rotary Club or something, and you want it to go well, but you know, if it goes okay, it's okay. But you know, you guys are the guys, and you guys know as much about you know, the subject or anything I'm going to talk about as I do. So you know, it's not like there's anything dazzling or any of that business that I can really throw out there, because you know, we're in the greatest profession in the world. You guys are my peers, and you know, I think it's the greatest thing that there is. I mean, anything that's fulfilling to people on a broad scale like football is, and anything that touches as many people as football does, and anything that builds the character that football does is a real you know, virtuous pursuit. And there's no question about that. And so with that, I really feel honored to be here, and I really feel honored that you guys would care what I have to say. But I get asked periodically, you know, I got the paper on the sideline that I call the plays with. I get asked, you know, what's on the paper? Well, this speech, that's what's on the paper. So I just brought the same paper with me and brought it over here, and so we'll just cover those things on that. But I want to recognize my staff. I've got I think I've got the greatest staff in America. So anybody on my staff, stand up, and I want to, you know, them to know how much I appreciate their efforts. I've got great players, great coaches, and I think that's the most important thing of all. You know, and I would say this to Bear Bryant said, only coach if you can't conceive of doing anything else. And well, I had kind of a strange path to coaching, and so with that said, you know, anybody that's wondering how it's all going to work out, I mean, if it worked out for me, there's hope for everybody, because I grew up in Cody, Wyoming, which is not the biggest bastion of football there is. I mean, there's grizzly bears, but there's not so much football and things of that nature. And I started coaching Little League Baseball when I was 15 years old. And it was just simply, you know, I looked out there and I thought, well, you know, I can do that, and I can do that better than these guys. And so, you know, at 15 with a whole bunch of energy, you know, I'd get those kids, and we'd, you know, work long hours and had a big time. And so I kind of got the coaching bug there. And I coached Little League Baseball from 15 years old till sophomore in college. And I know that sounds insignificant, but it certainly wasn't to me, and it's why I'm coaching college football right now, because I never really got that out of my system. You know, I played football in high school. I was average. Was a part of a great team coached by a fellow named John McDougal. Who was kind of this sort of John Wayne figure, you know, at least as far as, you know, when I was a kid, and you know, and that type of thing sticks with you, and everybody, you know, has had experiences like that, positive and negative, with coaches. And then, you know, I was lucky to be on a really good team, and so in the team part didn't really set into me until later on, but it truly was significant. You know, as I look back on it, the fact that we're really on, you know, just the team and everybody working together in the ups and the downs, and you know, we were lucky enough to be on a real successful team, and I think those teams tend to be a little tighter, and you know, we had an underdog quality there too. We were the smallest school in the biggest classification, and then we you know, won the state championship in triple overtime, then played for it the next year. And then my senior year, of course, we didn't do anything. And but nevertheless, just the excitement of being a part of that was important to me. Then I broke my leg. Then I went to college at BYU, and then I said, well, I've got to, you know, I want to do something competitive. I want to and BYU was a little too good a football for a player like me. So I started playing rugby, and then, and then I just figured, I'm going to go to law school, and that's going to be the end of it, and I'm going to wear a suit and hang a shingle up, and I did get bit by coaching. I never did get the hang of wearing a suit. And now some of you guys might be able to wear suits pretty well. I'm not one of those guys, and I look bad in them, and I'm uncomfortable. So is 60 Minutes deal. They said, hey, they said, do you want to wear a suit? I said, no. And so then instead I was just the fat-faced guy that they'd ask questions and I'd talk. Well, anyways, so I go to law school, and law school's got a little bit of coaxing that goes into it because it's a grind, and you're studying the same subject. Virtually every class is the same subject, law, and so as I'm going through that, they had this little thing they'd say, I love law, and you got to love the law. Do you love the law? I love the law, and it'd go like that, just as you're trying to talk yourself into enjoying the thing. And so and then I'll tell you about a guy that really loved the law, and this kind of tells you the stress that goes along with some things, but this fella, he looked kind of like Clark Kent, and he was a nice enough guy outside of just that whole Poindextery thing. And he breaks up with a girl, and I think part of the reason he was so stressed out about the breakup is because, she was an heiress to a big corporation, and so I'm not sure that didn't bother him a little more than the breakup itself, but. During rush hour, after the breakup during rush hour, he's running naked down Pacific Coast Highway, which is a very busy street on the coast of California, screaming, I love law, I love law, and then they sent him to a nut house there in New Jersey, after that, so I didn't see him anymore. So I'm thinking, well, law's maybe not for everybody, but I didn't have some earth-shattering experience. I kept my clothes on. I quit saying I love law quite so often, and so then what I did is I wrote a letter to a guy named Jerry Spence, and Jerry Spence. In my estimation, was kind of the top of the field as far as attorneys go. He was the guy that fought for the little guy. He was the kind of guy that would sue General Motors. For example, one of the most exciting cases, the Penthouse magazine wrote a salacious article about a girl, and there were too many parallels to a real person. So they bring Bob Guccione into Laramie, Wyoming, and he's got silk shirts and he's got chains down to here. And Jerry Spence, after Jerry Spence got a hold of him, and $18 million later, the young lady was made whole. And all of that seemed very exciting to me. And the other thing is Jerry Spence and I he's older than me, but had lived in the same town. I've never met the guy. I've talked about him for years, but I've never met him. And so I sent him a letter, and the letter said, it says, dear Mr. Spence, you're the top of the field of what I would like to be, and was it worth it? Do you love law? Do you hate law? If you had it to do over again, would you do it over again? He sent me a letter back, and he says, yes, I love law. Yes, I hate law. He says, but I'm consumed by it. He says, if you're consumed by law, go be an attorney. But if you're not consumed by it, go do something that you are consumed with. And I think that's the real beauty and virtue of coaching, is it is consuming. It's consuming to us as coaches, and it's consuming to the players. And if it isn't consuming to the players, typically they don't last too long. You got to either get them converted or or they're not going to be very good, and that's part of your role as a coach, I think. And so then I got to thinking, well, between the television set, the refrigerator, and the patio, what do I think about mostly? Do I think about law? Do I think about, gee, you could, rule something or other, and the Uniform Commercial Code says this, and that would sure look nice in a brief. I didn't think about that very often. I thought about, I thought about football. I thought about baseball. I thought about how great it would be to get in it. Well, and then so you can kind of imagine the expression on my in-laws' faces after their daughter, and I have the greatest wife in the world. And so we had a child, and we were in a little bitty apartment in Canoga Park, California. It had bars on the window. We were in the barrio. We were right next to that concrete ditch that you see the high-speed car chases in movies and things. We had shoreline property to that, but there was never water in it. And after all the work, I said, well, I'm gonna go get a master's and coach football. Well, then the expression on their face was priceless. And so then I went to the United States Sports Academy and got the master's, and right at that very year, that's the year that they said only 2 GAs. I mean, because anybody take free help for the most part, only 2 GAs. So then, I went and basically did it for free at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, made 10 grand at College of the Desert, went to Finland and got expenses paid, and then went to Iowa Wesleyan College, where I made 10 to 13,000 for the first couple years there, and was in constant debates with the student loan people on why I shouldn't have to pay back my $45,000 in student loans. And I told you that to tell you this, that you better enjoy the journey. There isn't anywhere that I haven't enjoyed living. And there's something good about everywhere, and I loved that little old apartment in Canoga Park because I saw things I'll never see again, like helicopters flying over with light shining in your window to see if you're up to any mischief and things of that nature. And in the course of that, and I've had great coaches to work with. I've been very lucky as far as the coaches I've had to work with. And then the other thing, and I heard Bill Walsh say this once, embrace where you're at. I mean, I've been fortunate enough to be places for like more than 1 year, for a couple years, where you can really develop your skills. You work with the same players and you discover, this works or that works, or this is good and this isn't so good. And, to reach this guy, you put it this way. To reach that guy, you put it that way. If you need to get this guy's attention, yell at him in front of the group because that'll motivate him. But this guy, you better bring him behind closed doors because, if he loses face, he loses confidence, that type of stuff, so, I feel like I've really been lucky with that. And then I worked with a fella named Hal Mummy at Iowa Wesleyan College who was a tremendous influence on me and, gave me an opportunity. Didn't give me a lot of money, but he gave me, it was the most priceless experience ever. I mean, I was a recruiting coordinator, I was the video guy, I was the equipment guy, I was the offensive coordinator, I was the offensive line coach, and I was the sports information director. And dealt with administration a little in the course of that. I mean, this lady wanted to, thought you should have a press release. Well, I'm busy doing all kinds of other stuff. Thought I shouldn't be able to call newspapers and tell them what was going on. Well, so I'd call USA Today as we had this quarterback breaking these records, and I'd say, Dustin Dewald did this, and Dustin broke this record and that record. Well, and so then, pretty soon she gets upset, says, you're in trouble, I told you not to do that, mail it out. Well, yeah, mail it out, and by Thursday maybe they'll print it, And I said, well, listen, I said, the Sports Information Office got us into USA Today 3 times this year, and your office couldn't get us into USA Today if there was a mass murder on campus. And so, you know, and so then they banned me from, it was kind of like 2 Live Crew. I was banned. And I was banned from campus for 3 days. Not banned from teaching the classes I was teaching. I also taught classes. Not banned from teaching the classes. Not banned from being SID. Only banned from coaching football. So, I mean, what I draw from that is other people, in spite of the fact that it's demanding and it's a passion and stuff like that, and it definitely is a passion because people do it for free, and I know because I did do it for free and was very proud of those days and the dues that went into that. And then, you know, the people are you know, people that aren't passionate are jealous of people that are passionate. And but with Coach Mummy, we would go anywhere and everywhere and study what other people were doing. We'd drive to a high school if they had some neat little play or something like that. We'd drive up to the Green Bay Packers. We would drive to any college under the sun and in blizzards as we're driving across Iowa. And in the course of that, I was fortunate to develop a pretty good knowledge base and certainly a diverse one. And you know, studying the game, I mean, just the passion to study football because it's got so much dimension that, you know, it never really gets boring, and at least not for me. And I think that was really, I mean, if I were to say anything, you know, study the game and be excited about studying the game. And in the course of that, you know, all kinds of plays. You know, you can do it this way, you can do it that way. And but you know, I think obviously that needs to be pared down. I think it's important to have I think it's important to have a philosophy, and in other words, a core of beliefs on how you're going to take care of your program, how you're going to do business, how, you know, what's important to you as a coach, what's important to your program, and how you're going to the identity of your team. Your philosophy is going to develop an identity for your team, and I think it needs to be pretty encompassing. But just in general, our philosophy, and we push this on the players. We tell them, get better every day. And a lot of this is going to be simple. Some of you are going to say, well, gee, I'm glad I went and heard that guy speak because, you know, this is just brilliant, you know. But believe it or not, we push these things. We push them hard. Get better every day. And what's important about get better every day is we take pride in the fact that we do some things different than other people. We take pride in the fact that some of what we ask our players to do may be more difficult or different than other teams do. And the point of the matter is if you expect your results to be, if you do the same thing they do, odds are your results will be the same thing as all the other teams are. We want our results to be different to the positive, so we have no problem asking them to do things differently or asking them to do something that other teams don't ask them to do. And I think that's what get better every day. I mean, you know, in a meeting, focus and draw more out of the meeting than the guy on the other teams on your roster. You know, and try to ingrain in your guys a pride and an importance in trying to get a little more out of that meeting, trying to get a little more out of that rep, and you know, every little bit helps. And I've always been, with the possible exception of Valdosta State, I've always been at teams where we weren't the most talented team in the conference. You know, we were a team that had to find ways to get an edge, ways to maximize, and I think if you can get your players thinking like that, maybe the guy does the drill a step harder. Maybe he zeroes in just a little bit more in the meeting. I just thought of this. we have a thing in the meetings, if a guy's in a meeting, like a position meeting, if he's tired, he's allowed to stand up. But if he falls asleep, we'll have a big cup of ice water. Coaches will go in drinking their big cup of ice water, and then if the guy falls asleep, of course, you dump it over his head. And then the thing there is you get a whole room full of people trying to catch somebody sleeping because they want to see that kid get ice water dumped over his head. And so you have them kind of helping you police the situation, and it's great fun for everybody except the guy that gets the ice dumped over his head. One time I dumped on this, I was coaching O-line, dumped it on this O-lineman, and startled him to the point I almost got hit because he started swinging and swiping and damn near belted me. And then the other thing that I think is important is compete with yourself. And we have, until they blew off, and we get a relatively stiff wind in Lubbock, Texas, and we had them posted around our field. Now we have them posted in the building. Compete with yourself. And by that we mean don't confuse activities with results. I mean, everybody is practicing. Everybody is running routes. Everybody is blocking. Everybody is lifting weights. Unless you're doing that the very best you possibly can, you really aren't heading anywhere significant. And it doesn't matter if you're the best player on the team. The fact that you can whip the scout team guy across from you, and just because you have good results in practice, I think a lot of times there's a temptation to be result determinative. You say, well, I beat him, so that's what counts. I mean, I beat him, so we're okay. Well, it really isn't in the big picture. I mean, at some point in time, you may be across from an All-American who's at some other school. And if you haven't utilized your time in preparing to the very best of your ability, despite the fact that the guy across from you in practice is an inferior player to you, you're not going to be ready for the big challenge when you face somebody that's a little better than you. But I believe this: if you will compete with yourself, and if you are able to compete at a high level for a long, consistent period of time, most people really aren't able to do that. I would, and the longer you can develop the skill to do that, the better you can be. Because nobody's perfect. And, you may have a guy that's really talented and he's able to compete to the best of his ability 65% of the time. Well, if you develop the ability to do it 85% of the time, even though he's better than you, he may get some plays on you, but you can narrow that gap. If you can do it 85% of the time, there's going to be some plays where he is not competing with himself at the highest level, and then he's going to fall short, and you're able to take those plays away from that guy. And I think it's important that people gauge their performance by whether it's the best of their ability. Everybody's capable of doing their best. Little old ladies are capable of doing their best. No matter whoever's the worst athlete in this room, perhaps me, I'm capable of doing my best. So anything short of that is really inexcusable in the world of football. And I think that and if you can form the group mentality around these things, then it becomes what's expected. It becomes the norm. It becomes what the people around them expect them to do. And all these things, in my mind, apply to coaches. There is no, I don't think you ask players to do anything you don't ask coaches to do. The other thing we talk a lot about is play the next play. And because I think one of the toughest things is dealing with disappointment and is dealing with big success. Play the next play. All that counts is the next play. It doesn't matter what happened the play before. Where you see it the most is, or where I see it the most, is with linemen, because they're really conscientious, typically offensive linemen, conscientious guys, and they're really out there, just waging war. And line's why we have football anyway. Otherwise, it's just some form of basketball or soccer, which there's nothing wrong with those things, but they're still not football. And so I mean, in the linemen, But your offensive lineman, if he gets whipped, one thing I really hate to see, he gets whipped on a play, and then they start beating each other over the head with their fists. This business where somehow they're going to straighten the situation out by pounding their head with their fists. That would be a tremendous example of failing to play the next play. All that counts is the next play. The guy might be frustrated, but the rest of us, the other people on the team, don't have time for an individual to be frustrated. I mean, we need somebody to block this guy the next play. Quit hitting your helmet with your fist and all this other stuff and all this frustration business, because we need somebody to block him this next play. So line up and compete with yourself and do that to the very best of your ability. And just the fact that the ability to clear your mind if something negative happens. The other thing you'll see sometimes, maybe a guy intercepts a ball, runs it back for a touchdown, and then he's so happy about doing that he squanders a series or two after that, because, yeah, that was a good play. Man, I scored a touchdown. Did you see it? I mean, you got to, he might get 2 touchdowns, maybe 3. I mean, play the next play. Focus in on the next play. And I think that's important with coaches, too. I mean, you go out there, you game plan all week, you practice all week, and then, some play doesn't work out. Well, you got to go to the next one. You got to keep your mind clear, expect good things to happen. Then the other thing we talk about, play one game a week. Play one game a week. And win one game a week. It does not matter what so-and-so's ranked down the road. You're not playing them this week. Just worry about the game you're playing this week. And we don't allow that quotes or any of that business in the paper from the players. So just win one game a week. All that counts is that game. You're only able to play the one game, so focus all attention on that. And if you improve incrementally in that game, then you'll be more prepared for the next game. But if you squander it by thinking about the game down the road, it's really not going to be very good. Then the other thing that we talk about in conjunction with that is respect everyone, fear no one. John Wooden saying. Respect everyone, fear no one. You don't play anybody that doesn't deserve your respect. And now we can all think of examples where in our careers where either us or our team didn't properly respect the opponent. We can also think of examples where just a little afraid of what might happen. Well, geez, they're really good. Their linemen are really big. They're really fast. I think it's important. And there's no place, everybody says, well, I'm just being realistic. There's no place for being realistic. I mean, nothing about this whole profession is particularly realistic anyway. I mean, some kid didn't come to you for you to coach him and be realistic and tell him what he can't do. I mean, because you don't really know. I mean, all of a sudden, maybe the guy can do this. Maybe your team can do this. Maybe, so expect to win every game. I mean, this last year we won 11 games and we're upset twice, And so, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, every loss we've ever had is an upset. And now, that doesn't mean you dwell on it. I mean, you still have to play the next play, but and everybody, you see really daunting teams on film, but by Wednesday, I'm fairly certain we can beat the New England Patriots, and I think that and it can only help you to expect good things to happen. It can only help your team to perform better, if you think positively, and then that gets contagious. And maybe you really aren't good enough to beat that team, but I'll tell you what, it helps enhance and ensure your chances of putting your best foot forward and giving yourself every opportunity to do that. And, well, I'm just being realistic. Well, baloney. I mean, and I don't think there's any place for that in coaching, but that's just one guy's opinion. We talked to our team. I used to take the team. We'd split our team up, and we have a thing called super games, which if I get time, I may tell you about that. But in other words, our team is split up into 8 groups, and so but we used to take the 8 groups and have them go off on their own and discuss, what the team goals should be before spring. And is that the 5-minute sign? 5 minutes, damn. Well, all right. We used to get the team. We used to discuss. What the goals should be. Well, and then the thing is, and the wording might be different, but the goals always came out the same. And there's a lot of ways to say the things that I'm about to say, but the wording always came out the same, which was, and so here's what we've narrowed them down to. We're not going to have little committee meetings and discuss what our goals are in the future. These are our goals. These are going to be our goals next year, and the year after that, and the year after that. The number one goal is be a team. Be a team. And I know that's fairly simple, but and all our guys, they got a thing on their wrist that says be a team. Now, it's strategically in red and black because we want to be a specific team, but be a team. All parts in a car are important. All parts in a car are important. If you ask a guy what's the most important part of the car, of course they always say the engine. And I remember when I was in high school, there's a big heavy guy named Todd. And Todd was one of those guys that work on cars, and we're going up a hill beside him, and his wheel's kind of wobbling. He leans out the window and he says, "Hey, I only got one lug nut on the tire." Well, and son of a gun, if right when he did that tire didn't, the wheel didn't fall right off his car and slam down on the pavement, and Todd wasn't going anywhere. Well, if you think the engine's the most important part of the car, go undo all the lug nuts on your car and then go for a drive and see how that works. So every role is important. Maybe your engine's your quarterback or your running back or some key defensive player or something like that. Every position's important. Your scout team is vitally important. I think one of the things that has helped us is we have great scout teams. We recognize them after each practice. We meet with them, and we have great scout teams. I think every role on a team's important. Be the most excited to play. Be the most excited to play. One time we were playing a team, a little old lady. We tell the little old lady story fairly often. We were playing a team. There's a little old lady that says, "Well, the black team's going to beat the red team." Well, how do you know that? Well, look at them. They're bouncing down the tunnel, and they can't wait to get out there on the field. And son of a gun, we did. We had a huge day. And she'd never been to a football game. Well, if it's that apparent to her, it ought to be apparent to us. There's really no replacement for being the most excited to play, the most excited to do your job, the most excited to do any of these things. And then be the best at doing your job. Your job, you might have a limited role, you might have a huge role. Be the best at doing your job. And we emphasize that over and over. We have the greatest overachiever I've ever coached is a guy named Wes Welker. Wes Welker's about 5'8". He's got, he's not all chiseled up. He runs a 4.7 and change. Wasn't drafted. In the last 2 years, he's led the NFL in receiving. And Wes had a quote in the paper that I think applies to a lot of things. He says, Wes says, "I just worry about what I can control, and that is me going out and believing in myself." Now, everybody can do that. Everybody can worry about what they can control, and everybody can believe in themselves. And we have that posted in our meeting rooms, because I want our coaches to see it, because I want our coaches to instill that into the players rather than the other way around. Rather than have it in the locker room and maybe they read it, maybe they don't. I want our coaches instilling that in our players. And the other thing, and I got this from a guy told me that Dick Tomey did this, and then I called Dick Tomey, and he told me about this next quote. Now, I have this hanging in my office, and mine's the biggest. I made sure mine's twice as big as everybody else's. But in every coach's office, secretary's office, it says you are either coaching it or you are allowing it to happen. If you don't like the way your players are playing, then look at that sign. If this business, I've told the guy 1,000 times and he still won't do it. You've told him 1,000 times? I mean, you're no better coach than that. I mean, you told him 1,000 times and he won't do it? You're a horrible coach, You're either coaching it or allowing it to happen. Never as a coach relinquish or allow yourself to not be accountable for how your players play. If you want to see how good of a coach somebody is, turn on the film, just like Coach Tomey said, turn on the film and watch how your players play. I mean, how good of a receiver coach is this guy? Or how good of a secondary coach? Well, let's turn on the film. Let's see what his players do. Let's see how they respond. Let's see how they go. I mean, talent may be different, but you're either coaching it or allowing it to happen. And I think that that mirror of accountability is critical for everybody. If we don't win a game, what could I have done to coach better? What could I have done to get the message better? What could I have done to make the guy's leg go this way or that way or whatever? The other thing, I think academics is important. If you can, we all get guys in various shapes and sizes. One thing I'm very proud of is of the top 25 teams, we had the highest graduation rate in the country. Of the public institutions, we have the highest graduation rate in the country. Well, and the reason I'm proud of that, the reason I think it's important, I mean, there's a lot of Mother Teresa reasons, they got a degree and all that's important. That is very important, and there's no question about that. But the other thing that I think is important about that, if you can get a guy to go to class, he'll do what you tell him to on the field, I mean, everybody's got the guy, well, he's not a great student. If he's committed enough to go to class for you, he'll do what you tell him on the field. And I think it goes hand in hand, and I think it's really important from that standpoint as well. I think practice is the most important aspect of what we do, the preparation. I think it's important to be as specific as possible. Don't practice things that you're not going to do in the game. And practice them as specifically as you can. If you want the guy's foot there, have a drill that puts the guy's foot there. If you want a guy to take care of the football, have something that teaches him to take care of the football, or at least emphasizes it. Emphasis is important as anything. And then the other thing, I think it's important to make choices. There's too many good plays out there, too many good ways to do things. You have to make choices, have to decide which ones are going to be the best for you. Have to decide, which way you're going to, specifically how you're going to attack outside, how you're going to attack intermediate, what your defensive front's going to be, make choices so then you can enhance the skills and develop your ability to do those things. Your technique will skyrocket if you do a good job being specific in practice and making choices and only doing what you have the time to teach. We talk about swinging the sword, and this is this story got some notoriety, but I'll leave you with this. It got some notoriety. I think approaching your audience from various angles is key, because the routine in football is vital. You can't be any good in football unless you have a routine, unless you do specific things. Like on a Tuesday at a certain time in the afternoon. Every player that I've ever had knows exactly what we're doing at 3:45 on a Tuesday. It's a Tuesday practice, 3:45. I mean, he knows what we're doing. And so the routine, I think, is critical because it allows you to specifically develop the skills that you're going to do. But the other thing is I think to keep the energy, keep the enthusiasm up, keep the excitement, you have to come from different angles. Well, so I walked in with this pirate sword one day. Swords have a funny effect on people. So I got this sword sitting there, and I'm doing the talk. I'm not saying anything, but the sword's there. And then, so then we talked to them about their bodies as swords. I mean, a pirate polishes his sword, sharpens his sword. Even the most derelict of pirates would take good care of their swords. And their body's their sword, and that's why they lift weights to polish their swords, and the rest. But how you swing your sword, I think that's key. I mean, are you going to swing it like this, like, oh, don't hit me? Or are you going to be out of control and, wide open to all kinds of things, maybe cut yourself? Or is it going to be precise and in a specific way? So I'd go around, and luckily I didn't decapitate anybody, but so I swung the sword around as I talked and stuff like that, and then I didn't think a lot of it, but I do hear from a lot of these guys that they remembered that, and I think something just simple as far as coming in at a different angle to keep it exciting is important. Well, then we set the sword on the table, and we had two different types of reactions. Some kids raced up there and wanted to hold the sword, and other kids would detour around the table in a wide sort of fashion, just because I guess they felt it was dangerous. But in any case, I think it made an impression, and I think just little bitty subtle things to do that, I think, is critical. It's really an honor for me to be here. I really appreciate it, and I want to thank everybody that was polite enough to not walk out of here in the midst of this thing. And because, like I say, I mean, I can't. There's no fooling you guys. And I've learned, studied, stolen, borrowed ideas from more people out here than I can possibly remember or mention. And like I say, I mean, truly an honor. If there's ever anything that we can do for you. Come vacation in West Texas, and we'll talk a little football as you're heading through, and so I look forward to meeting you and the rest. Thank you.